How you doing, everybody? This is Billy Herrington, and I'm representing Jimmy Z's Productions. And welcome to our Muscle Fest. I'm here in LA for the next couple of days. I'm going to be hosting a show for Jimmy Z over at the Fault Line. I'm glad you all could make it, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Where have you been?
Well, actually, for those of you in the know, I've been out of the industry now for about 3 or 4 years. It's a self-imposed exile, if you would, just focusing on other aspects of my life. I left the industry pretty much on top of my game, finishing All Worlds Conquered, highest rated porn star and paid porn star in the industry at that time. I felt that like my life was pretty much out of balance, so I left the industry and I got into carpentry, and I just focused on other aspects of my life. And when presented with this wonderful opportunity that I'm grateful for to host a show with such wonderful talent, I just thought that, you know what, I'd make good on the offer and see my fans from LA and see how it goes.
So have a lot of fans been wondering where you are, and do people still try to keep in contact with you, your fans?
Well, you know what, to be honest with you, I mean, when I say I dropped out of the industry, I completely dropped out of the industry. I dropped out of the internet, I dropped out of the circles, I was really unable to be contacted. And it was for my own doing. I just had a spiritual journey that I needed to go on. And I feel that it was the right thing to do. It's wonderful to be back in LA. We all went out to dinner last night, and just meeting all my fans all over again. It's just a wonderful warmth and a positivity that really I really miss. So I'm really looking forward to giving back to the community tonight and putting on a wonderful show for you guys.
So you think you've evolved, like from a porn actor to what do you describe yourself as now?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm no longer in porn, so I don't describe myself as a porn actor or in the porn industry. I am a carpenter by trade, and in the building industry, and that's where I'm going to remain. That segment of my life, that journey, if you would, was a sexual exploration that was wonderful. I'm glad I took, and I had a lot of fun doing. It was really in little increments that I had started off. I started off doing print work first for Colt, and built up my reputation through them, and then slowly and surely went into the industry. Before doing mainstream hardcore films, I did a lot of work for Can-Am wrestling films, and also some body worship films. So my fan base was pretty broad. And when I was able to get into the more mainstream industry, if you would, it really worked for me. My fan base was wider, and I got a lot of love out of that. Well, I've been working out now for primarily, especially when I was in the industry, for about a good 10 years. And it's really funny how I got into it. Not a lot of people know this, but I was actually really skinny growing up as a kid, and I was about 21 years old, and I was in love with this woman, and she'd actually broken up with me for a bodybuilder. And for whatever reason, I guess ego or self-esteem, I immediately found myself in the gym. And at the time, I had long hair, leather jacket, a rock and roller. And pretty soon that began, as soon as I hit the weights, my body just began to react. And the hair got cut and the body got shaved, and my body began to react very well to the weights. And unbeknownst to me, I had genetically gifted symmetry. And from there, I went into a few little competitions, nothing on a national level. And but I love bodybuilding. It's just something that I fell into, and that's the reason why I fell into it.
So it just came naturally to you. You saw progress pretty easily?
I saw progress pretty easily, and right off the bat, unbeknownst to me, because prior to that, I had done martial arts, I had done boxing, and most of these skills, although fighting, have absolutely nothing to do with building or retaining muscle. And the moment I began that process, maybe it was my background of martial arts and boxing, or the dedication that I learned therein, that created this discipline, and my body began to react fantastically to to working out, as you can see.
Do you still practice martial arts? Do you still?
It's something I don't practice martial arts at all, and it's something that really the kind of martial arts that I learned wasn't really something that you practice. It's something that you lived, and it's something that'll be with me for the rest of my life. I learned from a very early age, since I was 5 years old, and I put it down when I was about 21 and got into bodybuilding.
But did you ever teach any? Did you ever have any students or anything?
I had plenty of students, as a matter of fact. I wouldn't consider myself a sensei, but I competed AAU, which is the Amateur Athletic Union. It's the governing body for the Olympics. As a matter of fact, I placed 4th in Hyannis, Massachusetts in 1986 in Kumite in my division. Not a lot of people know all this stuff, and that's my background.
So you're talking about discipline. How would you say your life would have been without martial arts?
Well, it's really hard for me to speculate that. That's really an interesting question. I would probably say that the training that it gave me was more emotional and more spiritual and more grounded than it was more physical, if you would. There's a whole other side to martial arts, a Bushido code, if you would, and that's the discipline. It's a form of respect, if you would.
Was there anything when you started training that didn't develop as well as you wanted to? Like, did you have trouble?
Yeah, believe it or not, immediately my legs were really a weak point. I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'1", and right now I'm about 255. But at the time, at 6'1", I'd say I was about 170 pounds, 175 pounds, quite lanky, if you would. So it was hard for me to pack on that weight as opposed to maybe a shorter squatter bodybuilder with a shorter, more compact physique. But I find, though, to be honest with you, over time, if you're able to pack on that muscle, the symmetry is that much more beautiful on a larger physique. And you're less shorter and compact. And although that doesn't work perhaps for the look for more of a competitive bodybuilder today, it certainly works for aesthetically pleasing to the eye, or at least so I've been told.
So when you develop this new body, did the exhibitionist and you come out? I read in an old interview that you took nude pictures on a beach and some girls sent them into Playgirls.
That's actually how. That's funny. It actually predates Colt. I was actually dating a girl on Long Island, and it's really funny. You don't really see yourself as a bodybuilder. There's a psychology behind it. And she was always supporting me and always telling me how great my physique looked and stuff. And we took some personal photos on a beach.
It was a nude beach?
It wasn't a nude beach, but it was that day. It was that day. We were alone, and I think it was a work week, and we had, played hooky from work and stuff. And so it was on Long Island, and we went to one of the beaches there. And with those photos, unbeknownst to me, she sent them in to Playgirl. And they have a contest called Real Man of the Month. It's a small little contest. It's just girlfriends sending in photos of their boyfriends all across the United States. And I was a finalist and actually won Real Man of the Month. And based on those photos, I were sent to Jim French in Colt magazine. And that was actually the beginning of my print career for the male adult world.
So, I mean, were you shy? Were you comfortable being naked then?
You know what? It's funny. I've really been brought up in a very straight-laced Catholic background, but I've always been very comfortable sexually. It's just something that maybe it is the martial arts background. I'm very empathetic to other outlooks and other people's perceptions. So sexuality to me is very fluid. It doesn't matter to me whether you're gay or straight or really you like barnyard animals. Whatever floats your boat is always been kind of cool with me, and in a very respectful kind of way. And that's why when I got into the industry, the adult industry, especially the gay industry, it was more of a journey for me, and I was exploring my own sexuality. And it was very easy for me to do that in a quote-unquote role as Billy Herrington. And that was my image, and that was my my quote-unquote game face, if you would. And what I would do is I would explore sexually, And as you can see from my background in the film industry, I took things very slow. My very first film wasn't a hardcore gangbang. It was, just a body worship film with, I think, a solo jerk off. And then was next a wrestling film, which I think a guy went down on me. And that was the first time I had had a guy go down on me. And it was more easier for me to do it, believe it or not, in front of a camera and in front of a film crew, I guess because I was in character. And then I would take it home, and in my own mentality, I would absorb it and figure out whether it was for me or not for me. And it just became very instinctual to explore that way. So it actually worked for me. I do actually, and I'm very grateful for it, and I take it all very well. I don't get a swollen head at all. I've got it all figured out now, where it's very balanced, my life. I take it for what it's worth. It was who I was, and it's what I did for X amount of years, and I reflect on it very fondly. It's Jimmy Z. I mean, this is the creme de la creme. That's it. No, I was actually contacted by a very close friend of Jimmy's, who asked if I would mind hosting the show. And to be honest with you, because of the parameters of my own comfortability level now, it didn't coincide with anything that I no longer wish to do, which is hardcore films, escorting or travel or whatever it is. This is actually, it's very interesting. I'm actually in another aspect of what's going on here. I'm actually emceeing the show. I'm going to be presenting the eye candy. And for me, this is another journey that I'm going to take. It's going to be very interesting to see how that feels.
You still are eye candy.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope that's part of the lure. And but it's going to be more, for me, this show is going to be more intimate. Whereas before I would perform perhaps in front of 5,000 people at the White Party with Boy George and Taylor Dane. It was my performance, and I would go out there and I would do my routine, and once it was done, I was off the stage. This is going to be a couple of hours long, and I'm going to be actually interacting with the crowd, and it's on a more personal, intimate level, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Have you Jim French?
Absolute perfection. At the time, it's really funny. At the time, you don't realize, or at least I didn't realize, the process that you're going through. It's like most things in life, when you look back over your shoulder, you can see the evolution. And when I was shooting for Colt, I didn't realize just at first, how powerful Colt was, or exactly who they were. And I really don't have anything bad to say about that organization, the way they run their business, or the magnificent Jim French, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the best photographer on the face of this planet, as far as capturing male physiques. Looking back over it, going through the process, the first couple of times I was flown out there, he was just a photographer, and I was able to see some of the work that he did, and it's absolutely amazing. I think what separates Jim French from the other photographers is that he can create something even when it isn't there. As fantastic and beautiful as you might look, or you could present yourself, if you don't have the ability to capture that essence, or that essence of manhood at that moment in time, then really it's just squandered. And not only does he do that, but he's able to do that and amplify it, if you would. And so I had a very fun time doing Colt work, and actually flown out to Los Angeles quite a few times. It was really the base of my print work, and what I'm really most proud of is my Colt work. I just think Jim French is magnificent as a photographer, and his entire staff and crew. I was very happy to be on the cover of a couple of his magazines, being the Colt leather calendar, as well as my own book dedicated to myself and Ed Horst. And that's stuff that I'm most proud of. That stuff, to be honest with you, as I grow older, I'll look back when I'm an old man in a rocking chair and really be able to appreciate that I was at one point a very magnificent, beautiful man, and I have Jim French to thank for that.
So seeing how he captured you in photos, was that the first time you see yourself look like that?
Absolutely, because prior to that was a little snapshot, that a girlfriend of mine had taken on the South Shore of Long Island at a beach, and that was what was printed in Real Man of the Month. So, absolutely, I kind of use this example. I mean, that type of photography, a really good photographer, anybody can take a photograph of a can of soup, but take a photograph of a can of soup and make somebody hungry. That's the essence of a good photographer, and that's exactly what that man does. It's really funny. I never watched any of the films that I ever made. It's really funny. It's almost as though I'm watching somebody else. And I guess it's because of the disassociation and also of the character role that you're playing when you have your game face on. And if I'm watching it as myself. First of all, I was already there. I did it. I know what happened and what went down and how it went down because I made it happen. So I don't really reflect upon my video work or actually watch it myself. My favorite to be honest with you, I've been asked a couple of times what's my favorite body part or which body part stands out. And for me personally, I think the entire body is what the substance is. So I've always gravitated towards people with great symmetry. I found a person who has overwhelming legs or overwhelming arms, for that matter, really looks out of balance. So I've always liked guys like Bob Harris, of that ilk. So when you step back and you look at the entire physique, it just flows. It's aesthetically perfect or aesthetically pleasing to the eye. I don't really have a favorite body part that stands out, but I don't know. I think maybe if you guys can see the entire package, you'll see that maybe it flows a little bit from front to back. And I think for me, that's what counts. I like to do like maybe a double bicep shot for you guys, and you'll kind of see that nothing really stands out except for maybe a little bit of symmetry. And for me, that's what it's all about.
What do you get complimented about the most?
Boy, that's a trick question. Boy, I got an answer for that, but it's a little X-rated. But all depends on my co-star. But I don't know. I guess maybe, to be honest with you, probably things that people wouldn't really expect, and that would just be maybe a little bit of professionalism and respect for my co-stars, which really goes a long way.
Did you have a favorite co-star to work with?
They've all been great in their own way, but I think Tomcat would be a number one choice. All of them have been really great in their own way because, like, again, a lot of the films were different genres: wrestling films, leather films. I like the solo stuff, though. I like working with myself. Well, for those that didn't catch that, I was requested to shoot some body parts and some poses for you guys. So we're going to start off with maybe my arms, and I'll do a couple of side bicep shots. Maybe a little tricep. My forearms and the vascularity really stand out right now, and I think that might have something to do with the carpentry now that I do, swinging hammers all day long, if you know what I mean.
So you have a good grip.
You have to ask my my co-stars, but I like my grip. I think I got a pretty good grip on things. Does that look good?
Looks great.
You guys at home like that?
I'd like to see a lat spread.
You want a front lat spread? Do a real lat spread for you guys. Now you're focusing on my lats, not my ass, right? Now if you guys like that and you want to see some more, watch later on during the film. Or come visit us at jimmyzproductions.com. See the fun we have.